Hey, everybody. It's Friday. I'm not happy. The Gophers had a chance to win. They didn't win, but hey, it's Friday. So there's the weekend. We can be happy about Saturday, and Sunday is coming, which means we're 1 week away from Vikings kicking off with the Giants. We're 1 week away from the Gophers getting a win in college football, hopefully. But we got so much to talk about in sports. I mean, you got the Paralympics jumping off now. You got all these debates with Tyreek Hill now versus the Noah Lyles beef. I mean, Brandon Ayuk just got paid, but I'm Ron Johnson. This is Locked On Sports Minnesota. This is your Friday roundtable. We got Reggie Wilson joining us from Care 11. We got Julia Daniels joining us from Care 11. We also have Sam Ekstrom, the producer. You guys know does it all. Is on the Monday, the football party. He's on the postcast. He's on the Ron Johnson show. He's on the basketball party. Sam's everywhere. But people, I'm wearing my Gopher shirt because I want everybody to know through and through, I'm in this. I understand what's going to happen. 5.5 wins. I was listening to the radio today. 5.5 wins was the prediction. This was one of the wins to get them over that, but I'll talk about that much more because there are some ways to win some of these games after seeing Max Brosmer finally live. But we got to get locked in on these topics, people. So what you got for us, Reggie?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about some of my takeaways after spending the most of the day at Huntington Bank Stadium yesterday.
Sad week for some Vikings players. Great week for some Vikings players. We're going to talk roster cuts as they had to get down to 53, what we like and what we don't like.
No great news with the Twins either. They've lost 8 of 10, swept by the Braves. What's happening at Target Field?
And the Thursday night results changed my mind about this Minnesota Gophers team, specifically the offense. We'll talk about what the changes need to be and what my mind was changed when I saw it. We got all that coming up and much more on today's show. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Just download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply, though, people. Make sure you read the terms. Small print at the bottom. Download the Gametime app today, and you will and what time is it?
Game time.
Thank you, Sam. But also make sure you guys remember Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. And with the Twins, I don't know if you saw this, Sam, Reggie, and Julia. Did you guys see how much one of the MLB teams is selling their tickets for right now? Have you guys seen that article?
No, I haven't.
What's the team?
I think it's it's Cincinnati Reds. The Cincinnati Reds ticket sales on the Gametime app. There's numerous apps that have them. I won't bury the lead any much longer. 0. They have $0 tickets for sale because the attendance is so low. I think it's the Cincinnati Reds, if I'm not, but just Google $0 tickets, MLB. It was on Twitter the other day. I could not believe it. It was like $1, $0. They're just trying to get butts in seats. And I think it was the Cincinnati Reds. So I don't even know if you can get $20 off of $0. But there are some great opportunities out there with some of these baseball teams as the season gets on. And then, of course, Minnesota Vikings, 49ers. You will have a chance because there's people that can't go. They're going to sell their tickets. Gametime has purchased some. Make sure you get on there and get $20 off that first chance to come see Brandon Ayuk, the $120 million man. But with no further ado, it's time to get the show started. Reggie, tell us about your long day in the rain. We were all there. We get it. It was a rain delay. It was awesome in the fourth quarter, though. But what you got?
Yeah, so a really tough takeaways for the team. Sorry, my dog's kind of spazzing.
And there's a guest joining the show. That's the doorbell for our guest of the day.
Yeah, it is.
It is Nick Saban. No.
Reggie,
no,
do you
not,
need to get
not
that?
Nick Saban.
You
Yeah, you know what? Let me get the door. Hold that thought.
All right.
Jump to Julia. Reggie's going to come back after he sees who's our guest today. Is it Ahmad? Is it Gabe? Who could it be? But Julia, what are your thoughts on the game? Because I know Care 11 covered it. And what were your thoughts, quick, your biggest takeaway from the game before Reggie gets started?
Ron, I'll be honest. I was covering prep football all last night.
Oh, my goodness. I saw that. You had the coach from Shakopee.
Ray on, yeah.
Ray. Was he on the whole show?
No, he was on our second segment.
Got it. Yeah, because I know Ray Benton I knew him way back when he was at Holy Angels, and now he's at Shakopee. So I'm looking forward to that. But Sam, I will give you my quick one before we get to Reggie. So here's my quick takeaway, and then we'll go again after Reggie goes. But my quick away from the Gophers game, and people were there, it was boring. I've seen a lot of articles today, Chip Scoggins and some other people, everybody saying, what a dud, what a this. And the reason is because Max Johnson did not look good. Brad Johnson's son did not look good. And you felt like the way the North Carolina team couldn't move the ball, the defense was doing great. You had interceptions with Justin Wiley, and the Gophers just continued the fumble. Just couldn't throw the ball, like wide open receivers and missing the throws on these 5-step drops. And I brought this up numerous times. My original takeaway was it was boring for 3 quarters. I don't know, Sam, what about you?
Yeah, I felt like this was a bad loss. North Carolina did not have really any juice to speak of offensively. Their backup quarterback, and I felt horrible. The Max Johnson injury and then showing the mom and dad in the stands was heartbreaking. Felt bad for them, but their backup really couldn't throw the ball. So there's no reason why the Gophers should have lost that game. A lot of self-inflicted stuff. They had interceptions in their hands that they couldn't haul in. They had a turnover in the red zone that got nullified by penalty. They couldn't recover a fumble that led to the go-ahead field goal. Just a lot of issues like that. Pass protection, pocket presence, a dropped touchdown in the end zone on the second to last drive. Elijah Spencer had a chance to catch it. And then play calling, they kind of mailed it in on 3rd and goal twice in the game. They just ran the ball from the 10, ran the ball from the 12, didn't even try to score. So all of these were problematic, and I think that's why they lost by 2. That's why it came down to a missed field goal. Oh, yeah, they missed a chip shot, Ron, right? Like, a lot of this is in the Gophers' hands, the reason they lost. Don't commit dumb penalties. They had a holding penalty that knocked them out, like, into worst field goal range at the very end. I just keep coming up with things. A lot of that is self-inflicted. If they had played their best game, I think they win that game, Ron, by double digits, don't you think?
Yeah, and again, the word I would say, or the phrase, shoot yourself in the foot. Like, it literally was, like Cheddar Bob. I don't know if Julie's ever seen that with Eminem. And but Cheddar Bob shot himself in his, with his own gun. Like that's what it felt like. It felt like this was a bunch of Cheddar Bob sitting on the couch at times. And you're right, holding penalties. The fumble. Oh my God, if they just get the fumble. Great fumble. Now, I will say one fumble did bounce their way. Elijah Lemecki Brockington makes a guy miss. Boop, comes out. But thank goodness Marcus Majors was there to pick that one up. And he almost scored on that. Like that should have been a touchdown. That could have been like the immaculate fumble. Franco, a la Franco Harris and my dad back in the day. But that's where here's where I go quick. Because I know, I'm going to talk about this after we have a word from our sponsor. I'm going to talk about, how they can fix this. I don't want to give it away because there's a way. But, Sam, you're dead on with the play calling because I said this before, and I've always said this. In 1960-something or 70-something, the forward pass West Coast offense was birthed. And we know that, the 49ers. And all of a sudden, then it grew. John Gruden grew it into this Grudenism. And then all of a sudden, Tony Dungy takes it to Peyton Manning with Tom Moore. And the Steelers did it with Tom Moore, with Terry Bradshaw. And why do people try to reinvent the wheel? If you watch the Gophers, and it happened in the 4th quarter, I'll talk about that. But we got to let Reggie, because Reggie was there. It was raining, delayed for an hour. So that was annoying as heck. And then all of a sudden, football happened. And we had to wait 3 quarters to actually get some magic. But Reggie, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, not unlike last year, if you're talking about that, but it seemed really sleepy to start. And I said this on air last night, the missed field goal, the doink, that was pretty much the highlight early. And then the Gophers kind of got it going a little bit. The Wiley interception was very timely. Then they got the touchdown with Marcus Major. And then it seemed like Brosmer kind of settled in a little bit, which was nice to see. And, he led them on the touchdown drive right before the half. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, maybe he's settling in. Maybe he's settling in. But then things didn't really go how you thought it would go once the 3rd quarter kicked off. And it was just kind of like a gritty fight to the finish, just trading field goals back and forth. But, you know, you look at the third down efficiency, 4 of 12 on third down. You know, PJ Fleck really likes to run the ball, even though last night he said he passed a lot. It was still pretty balanced, but only 78 yards. I thought what we did see from Marcus Major looked pretty good. Daniel Jackson kind of in and out of the lineup. But one thing that I really thought was my biggest takeaway, other than, you know, some of the inconsistencies on defense, which Justin Wiley said they just kind of got away from their discipline a little bit with some of those big plays happening. But one of the biggest takeaways for me is that it just seemed like early on, and he even admitted it, the lights were just a little too bright for Max Brosmer. And he was like, look, this was a unique experience. And I think he was just trying to like take it all in. And even PJ said that, you know, he was kind of just settling in. And once he settled in, then he started to play a little bit. But one thing that I thought, you know, was interesting to see was his pocket awareness. I think he took way too many sacks last night. And also just his decisiveness. I was just ready for him to just put his foot in the ground and just throw it. And there were a couple times where he kind of missed some easy passes. And there were other times where I'm just looking like, okay, you're going to let this thing go? You're going to let it go? You're going to let it go? It was almost like, you know, coming from New Hampshire, he was like, oh, man, like that might work there. But it was almost like he was second guessing, like if that will work. And he made a lot of tight window throws and some throws that I thought were going to get him into trouble a few times. And it was like, whoa, he got that in there. Whoa, they caught that. And I think he was really just kind of testing the waters to see, you know, what could work at this level and what couldn't. But I think he'll continue to settle in, but he's got to be more decisive throwing the football.
Yeah, and you're right. Like that's where I go with it. And so we'll talk about how to help his decisiveness. We're going to talk about the Gophers Thursday night results, the performance. So we're going to get everybody's take. We got to get Julius' take on this. Did last night's performance change your mind? Because the over-under was 5.5. I remember on the last show we've talked about this, Vikings 7.5 or Gophers 5.5. Who's more likely to get there? But I got to get everybody's take on that. Did last night's performance change your mind, good or bad, about the Minnesota Gophers? We'll talk about that and much more coming up next after a word from our sponsors.
We are brought to you by Gametime today. Like Ron told you in the open, great deals on tickets, whether it's sports, concerts, comedy, theater. You can get to Target Field. You can get to Target Center. You can get to US Bank Stadium. You can get to Huntington Bank Stadium locally. Great deals. And there's so many ticket options on Gametime. Sometimes it can be overwhelming. Well, Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live event even easier. It filters out the fluff and shows you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you're not wasting time sifting through thousands of tickets. Gametime curates, makes it easy for you. So turn on the all-in pricing. You don't want any hidden fees at checkout. Gametime offers that. Seat views, get a panoramic view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly where you're going to sit, what the view is going to be. Lowest price guarantee. Gametime credits you 110% of the difference if you find better seats. And they've got the best customer service in the industry, I promise you. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime.
I kind of like when you guys do that in unison. That was kind of cool.
Reminds me of Ray Lewis, because that just popped up when Ed Reed. I just saw Ed Reed doing some stuff, and that video of us doing that popped up. What time is it? Game time. What time is it? Game time. Any dogs in the house? Like, I remember being a rookie and the first time Ray came out. Yeah, and Ray came out doing that on Monday Night Football against the Denver Broncos. It like literally, even though it's your teammate, it still gives you chills. Ray doing that. Planes flying over, like it was ridiculous to see him do it. But it is Gametime, people, so we got to talk about the game last night. And here I go quick. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on this, man. I'm going to get a little bit in the weeds. Luke Bryan might love this. But when you watch, Luke Bryan loves a good analytics session.
Deep dive, yeah.
But when you look at it, I don't want to get too deep in it because we want to keep it high level. But here's the basics what I saw. In the fourth quarter, it got exciting. We can all admit that. Like Reggie said, you saw Max Brosmer hitting some throws in pockets, hitting some guys in between. Some of the throws, the DBs are dumb as dirt. The one to Daniel Jackson that ran a hitch with a corner compliment behind it. Why are you off? And you're the press corner in cover 4. Like you're playing a cover 2 or whatever. They were like in quarter 6, 2 on one side, 4 on the other. He was pressed on Daniel Jackson and Brosmer still threw the hitch. Now that I don't know if I would have took the hitch, but it's Daniel Jackson, so he trusted it. Then the second guy hits his own guy with his eyes closed, and Daniel Jackson skirts off for 19 yards to get a first down. So throws like that. Why not run more hitches early to get his blood going, to get his, like I always say, get a lather. Throw some hitches. If you think about the Minnesota Vikings way back when, and we've had a couple of people. I actually saw Gary Zahner. He was the special teams coach. We're going to have him on the Ron Johnson show. He was a special teams coach for the Vikings when Gary Anderson missed that field goal. So it was his job to get this together. And so Gary Zahner and I were talking about that because I saw him on Monday, and we were talking about Randy Moss, some of the basic routes they did. When they came out, Randall Cunningham and Chris Carter said this too when I saw him. Randall McDaniel was there. They said, man, Randall used to come out and just get some quick throws to Randy Moss. And the reason we were talking about this is I brought up the quick game. And I was like, talking to those guys about like, man, like, do you feel like guys are still doing quick game or is everybody trying to be innovative with their offenses? And they're like, it's both. Some of the really good coordinators are still doing slants and hitches. You didn't see that last night from the Minnesota Gophers. You saw a lot of like 5-step drop, a lot of deep outs, a lot of deep overs that you see Justin Jefferson do. But you also know what Justin Jefferson does? 1 steps. He'll catch the ball and just go. You see Terrell Owens do it. You saw Jerry Rice do it. And so in the fourth quarter, you have to do it because you have to be quick and you have to be decisive and you have to be towards the sideline. If the Gophers think about it, and again, I don't know if they will, if they put Max Brosmer in more of those situations where he can just sling it in the slot, take 4 options. Here's 4 receivers running 4 different routes. If they're off, I got these 2. If they're pressed, I got that guy. Those were the throws. Like if he had not gotten flushed out the pocket towards the end of the game, Christian Driver, the guy failed. He's wide open down the middle of the field. Like, but he didn't have time to throw the ball. He needed like a half more second to realize I can go deep. Even if the guy doesn't fall, Christian Driver has the guy beat, which I'm excited for what Christian Driver might bring to this Gophers offense in the future because he looks fast. He looks decisive. He understands like the pro game. But that's the fix. You have to go quick game with Max Brosmer. You have to let him pick apart a defense. You have to force the defensive line to not just blitz. North Carolina was just coming because they're like, he's got to go 5 steps with a hitch. If you just go 3-step, they're not getting to you. And then when it's time to go 5, they have to think like, oh, do I need to get my hands up to stop the quick game? Boom, pump, and now you have something else. So that's the fix for me. I don't know if they'll do it. The defense did look good. I mean, let's be real. I don't know if it was Max Johnson was bad or the defense was just really good, but they held him to under 100 yards passing. And so they had it. They did everything they could do to put the Gophers in a position to win. And it comes down to a kicker. And as Dwayne Clemens, who joined us on the Ron Johnson show, former Viking, the 1998 team, Sam, what did he say? We hate kickers. So it is one of those things. You don't really hate them, but you just hate those moments when you work as hard as you work, and then it comes down to a kicker, and he doesn't get it done. So, you can overthink this so many ways, but Sam, you're right, too, with the interceptions, other stuff. So does it change my perception of the Gophers? No. I actually am more positive now about Max Brosmer because I saw him make some throws that Reggie talked about. But
Ron, before I just want to push you on this. From the 29-yard line, 9 seconds left.
Yep.
They ran it up the gut for a yard.
Yep.
Would you have liked a pass play there to try and set up a much shorter field goal?
They wasted so much time there too.
They did, yeah. But you saw PJ. I don't know if you saw PJ on the sideline. He's yelling, "Spike it, spike it, spike it!" Like he's trying to get them up to the line. I don't think they knew what they were gonna do, and that's the problem. Like you have the green dot in the headset. He's probably yelling, "Spike it, spike it, spike!" But can you get the guys up there? But that's the thing is like before that play, you tell them beforehand, "Hey, after this play, we're running to the line to spike it." Like, no matter what happens, we're going to get you got to think positive. We're going to get a positive game, run a line, we're going to spike the ball so we can get maybe 1 or 2 more plays. But yes, Sam, I would have. So there's 2 sides of this, devil's advocate. And a lot of coaches think this. If you run a pass play and you get sacked, you're out of field goal range. But you also could say, hey, just throw the ball down the field as far as possible if they're coming out of bounds, because in college you can do that if there's a receiver in that area. So you put a receiver, like you just have one guy run a go, so you have that option, and then you do the other stuff with the underneath guys, whether it's quick outs, whatever, to get a couple more yards. But I do know he was trying to get set up in the middle, but the running back went to the right. He just missed one on the right hash before that. So that's why I would have run a pass play to the left, put it on the left hash. His ball was tailing off to the right. So then if you're on the left hash or in the middle, and the broadcast, for those watching at home, I heard him, he makes that. If it's in the middle or the left hash, that tail off at the end actually stays in and goes in. So, but does he overthink it? Does he feel like, okay, I'm on the left now, so I got to kind of push it? And, you know, there's so much going on in the kicker's head in those moments. I just don't know. Maybe the hair dye. Like, why did he dye his hair green? Maybe that got to his brain. I don't know. But it just wasn't it. He is not the Joker. Go get your regular hair back. Too much emphasis on Big Ten Kicker of the Year. Like, just go in and know you can make the case. He missed 2, though. So that Big Ten Kicker of the Year, I will say my perception of that has changed. I don't know if he's going to get that again after that game. But I got to go to Julia. Julia, I know, you know, preseason we had thoughts. And now, what are your thoughts?
Do I have very many thoughts on this? No, not particularly.
Do you feel like they can still get over? So, like, this was the question this morning when I was driving the kids to school on NBC. So, Dan, I love the Dan Patrick Show. 5.5 wins was what college football had the Gophers at, and FanDuel, our partner. Do you still believe they can get 5.5 wins? Because North Carolina was at 1. People just assumed North Carolina was a loss. But after seeing them play against North Carolina, do you think that 5 they can still get 6 more wins?
Yeah, I do. I think next week is when we really will get a gauge for this Gopher team, because they talked so much post-game about we've got to fix this, we've got to do that, we've got to not make these stupid mistakes, this, that, and the other. So we'll have to see how they come back and fix those mistakes next Saturday. I think that'll tell us, give us a better idea of where this Gopher team is trending. I also think I do have a question for you guys. Darius Taylor out last night. Do we know how long?
Hamstring. No, it's soft tissue.
So PJ said that he was close. Like he was close to playing last night, he says. So
Reggie,
I don't think it's going to be something.
Reggie, he said that about Baranowski last year and Cody.
Well, look, man, I'm just saying what he told us. Okay,
that's what
important. What he said.
PJ and the Gophers. So here's a funny story, and I'm Sam knows this. I'm not Adam Schefter, so I'm not outing any sources. But everybody knows the new injury report rules with the Big Ten. And the SEC has adopted it too. So, Julia, your Alabama team can no longer hide. But the SEC has adopted this as well. I think I think this is pressure from Vegas. I think college football understands how much money is in gambling, and they want a piece of the pie. I think it's coming down the pike with some type of NIL or some type of commercial, maybe for coaches or chancellors or school. I don't know. But I know they want to be involved with sports books. And so now the SEC is joined in as well, which is going to be a domino effect. At 6 o'clock, so 2 hours before kickoff, you're supposed to have the injury report out. The Gophers had it ready to go at 5 because they were supposed to play at 7. The Gophers did not send it at 5 because they found out right at like 4:50 that the game was going to 8 or 4 o'clock or something like that. There is a person of the media around the Gophers standing next to the person that has the paper and just said, "Hey, is he playing or not?" There's Taylor. Oh, you just got to wait. Literally a minute later, it came out. So you're telling me you can't just tell me right now, like you got the freaking paper and you're about to go fax it over to the freaking Big Ten so you can put it on the website, and you don't want to just give me a minute heads up? Like, so when I say that, Reggie, I just say that they're very weird about this. Like, I don't know what they think is going to happen. Like 6:01 versus 5:59. Like, oh, Mac Brown knows a minute early. He's making changes. Like, it is what it is. Like, so yeah, Reggie, I just, this whole thing of like, oh, he's almost back. And they did the same thing last year with Darius too, and he never really came back. So I stopped worrying about if guys are back or not. But I will say this, Julia, hamstrings, it feels, and Reggie, it does feel good. I mean, I don't know if you've had one before, but it does feel good when you're doing nothing. But when you gotta, when you gotta hit that second gear, then you're like, oh, whoa, okay. Nope, not there yet. And it's no way to go into that second gear warming up. Like, you have to, like, because you're almost scared. Like, I don't know if I want to try this during warmups. So it's going to come down to when he's really ready to, like, actually just go. And they're probably gonna do another X-ray to see if there's any more like little tears or anything they can see. They're gonna massage it out to see if there's any, swelling, any pressure. And it sucks because you go through so much training camp, and he was the guy. I believe if he played last night, they win the game because he would have rushed for 110, 15 yards himself. Because if you look at number 24 majors, some of those breakaways would have been scores by Darius Taylor. For him, it was like, oh, I got caught from behind, or they caught me in the hole. The escaping the pocket, he gets out, escaping the in. Darius Taylor probably gives you more there. He didn't get that. What North Carolina got is what we were hoping what Minnesota would have had with Darius Taylor in the game. So, yeah, but nobody knows. Nobody knows about the hamstring, Julia. As Reggie would say, he's close. I really don't think he's going to play against Nevada. I don't. Rhode Island. I think they're going to wait to Nevada. I really do. I think they can beat Rhode Island without him. I think they can probably beat Nevada without him. If I'm a betting man, I'd say Iowa. I'd say we don't see Darius Taylor to Iowa because they want to make sure he's 100% for Big Ten play. And that's what my money's on, because if I have Daniel Jackson healthy, because it was his ankle, he's back. Darius Green hopefully should be back, the safety. I would say Iowa is Darius Taylor, but maybe I'm wrong. I pray I'm wrong, but I feel like we're going to see him in Iowa. I don't think we're going to see him this preseason for the Gophers. But Reggie, does this change your perception of the team?
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect from them, and I'm like, okay, they got this veteran quarterback. I know he's coming from a different conference, but veteran guy, stabilizing presence. But PJ kept saying all these things that just made me not really sure what to expect. He's like, it's the most competition since I've been here. I'm really proud of this football team, and it was sounding good. But it was just so interesting because, being on X last night, someone was saying,
what kind of night do you have?
Twitter, X, whatever.
Ecstasy? What are you doing, Reggie?
But being on the social media site last night, there were so many people that were like, here's the Gophers' new offense. Looks like the same Gophers offense. Yeah. And it's tough because, there wasn't a whole lot. And PJ is very defensive on his offense now, because that was one of the things he said in the presser last night. Was like, no, people always talk about our, run heavy scheme. We actually passed a lot, XYZ, but 166 yards is not really a whole lot.
30 dropbacks.
Yeah. I mean, and that's fine. It's not Kevin O'Connell level of dropbacks, but I'm still interested to see how Brosmer kind of settles in, and if last night is like the anomaly and not the trend as far as him being decisive with the football. I think as the time goes on and he kind of gets his feet set underneath him, he'll kind of adapt more to the high level D1 game. But yeah, I don't think that was the best showing. I think it would have been great if they would have snuck out of there with the win. I don't know, last year Kesich is the hero. This year, Doink in the first quarter and then wide right, at the buzzer. That was brutal. I don't know, how much you blame it on him, but yeah, I don't think they played good enough to win the game altogether last night. So I'm not really sure what to expect from this team. You said 5.5?
5.5 is what
I'm probably
FanDuel
there.
had it.
Yeah, I'm probably there.
Yeah, and I got out the car before I could hear the rest of the segment on college sports so I don't know what they said, but I know they replay it. So I'm gonna probably be in the car waiting for my kids after school and try to catch the rest of that just to hear their take so we can talk about it on Tuesday. But yeah, Sam, what are your thoughts?
So the team we saw last night is not going to win 5.5 games. It all comes down to, can they improve off what we saw last night? Like, I think we all agreed that they got to get better. And I think actually the easiest place for them to get better, the most realistic place for them to get better, is the run game. The run game was pretty lackluster. The 2.4 yards per carry on 33 carries. Like, you look at why they have 5 3-and-outs in the game, because they were always behind the chains. They were asking Max Brosmer to convert 3rd and longs, and he's just not quite ready to do that yet. So I think knowing what this offensive line is all about, knowing what Darius Taylor's all about, I think that's actually a realistic ask to say, hey, get the running game back to where it can be, and this offense can be totally different. The defense to me, I think, is going to be fine. There were some missed tackling issues last night. There were a couple lapses. There was that triple option weirdness at the end where
and they cheated. The lineman was down the field like 10 yards.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I read that too. Yeah. I'm actually not super concerned about the defense. They held North Carolina to 4.6 yards per pass play or pass attempt. That's really good pass defense. So I think there are good bones. Like there's a good structure around this team, but you got to get a lot more from your quarterback early. You can't take so many sacks, and you got to run the ball. The running game is going to be his best friend, the same way that Aaron Jones is going to be Sam Darnold's best friend for the Vikings. You got to set up these somewhat raw quarterbacks, with good situations, not 3rd and 12, 3rd and 2. So that's what I need to see going forward to believe they can win 6 or more.
Yeah, and they ran a lot of play action stuff too, and you can't run play action if you haven't run the ball. It's like playing peekaboo with a little kid. It's only so long it's gonna work when they realize like you're still right here in front of me. Like eventually kids figure it out. Like it's hilarious. And that's what I noticed. I'm like, why are you running these play actions? Because all you're doing is giving the D line time to get to you. Like they're not biting or stopping. The DBs are not stopping. Your receivers aren't disguising. So there was a lot of stuff like that. I was thinking about basics. Like if you run a hitch, eventually they got to come up and break up on the hitch. Now you run hitch and go. You run double hitch to the slot side. Their safety was 8 yards back. Run a one step, and we've all seen, and again, I go back to Randy Moss because I love this. I don't know if you guys remember the Marshall highlight when he caught the one step in the slot and then hurdled the dude for the touchdown. Like, not to say we would have hurdled a guy for a touchdown, but throw it in the slot. Like their DBs could not tackle last night. They looked inept trying to tackle receivers, and so they kept missing every single time. Honestly, a lot of DBs this week, like if you watch Travis Hunter, his touchdown against North Dakota State, same thing. Like it was a hitch. Tackle the guy. Like the guy like took a horrible angle on a hitch and he was like 1 yard away. So I don't know if it's like lack of hitting anymore because you can't hit in practice anymore in college. So guys aren't doing tackling drills and just running into each other, which I get. We don't want to do that for brain issues. But guys are missing easy tackles. The Gophers missed a ton of tackles on the running back. He was like a pinball machine. So I think there's some fixable stuff. Sam, you're right, though. Like the way they played last night, there's not 6 wins in there. And again, they could beat Nevada, Rhode Island, but here's the juggernaut of games coming up. Iowa, after those two, Iowa, Michigan, USC, UCLA. That's 4 dogs that you got to deal with. UCLA, which is funny to even say it this way, is the easiest of the 4. And UCLA is good, but your easiest win is in 4 weeks after you have to go through Iowa, Michigan, because Connor Stallion still cheated, USC, and then UCLA. And USC, the good thing is USC travels to Minnesota, and then you have to get on the road to go to the West Coast and play UCLA. So I don't know if they'll get it together by then. Hopefully they do, but Illinois seems winnable. Rutgers seems winnable. Maryland seems winnable. But then you have Penn State, Wisconsin. So there's not a lot of easy wins. The 5 I think they're counting is Nevada, Rhode Island, Illinois, Rutgers, Maryland. Those are the 5 I think they're giving the Gophers. They could have got 6 last night, and they could beat UCLA for 7. After that, hey, you got to punch somebody in the mouth, yank somebody's toenails off when they're not looking. Like, I don't know what you got to do, but it wasn't great. PJ Fleck's going to give us all the quotes this week. We'll see how they handle this. We'll see how players are talking about their kicker. They're all probably going to come, have his back. That's their boy. He's one of their captains. It is what it is, but we got to move on to some NFL football, people, because the 53-man roster finally, but it's not over yet. They got 2 weeks to keep bringing guys in, cutting guys. Surprise cut, Jaron Hall. Not surprised to me. If you look at my tweet, I didn't put Jaron Hall on my 53. Not saying I knew, but I heard. So, Julia, 53-man roster set. What are your thoughts?
My first thought is, yay, Nudie made the roster.
Nudie picks.
I'm such a big fan of Dwight McGlothern. If anybody's wondering who we're talking about, this is like the 3rd or 4th week that we've talked about him. He goes by Nudie. He goes by that name because his uncle named him Nudie when he would run around naked as a toddler with a football, and
he
it just
can't
stuck.
do that anymore in Minnesota. He'll get
no, don't do that anymore. But even Brian Flores has said when people have called him Dwight, they're like, "How do you think Dwight's doing?" He's like, "He doesn't go by Dwight. He goes by Nudie." When I was talking to Josh Metellus, he was like, "Yeah, Nudie," and I was like, "I have no clue who he's talking about," but okay. Had to figure that out on my own. So happy for that guy. I have been pretty good with my predictions the past few weeks. I predicted that he would have some kind of big interception, possible pick six in that second preseason game. He did have a huge interception, almost a pick six, but not quite. So glad he made the 53-man roster. The running backs, man, that was tough to see all the cuts they made there, especially Kane. It's tough too when they change up special teams this year with the new kickoff rules and things like that. So I think that he just wasn't part of the game plan that they had there. So that one I think was the most surprising, because I think I was out running errands when I got the text in our sports group that said, wow, they cut all of the running backs except for Ty Chandler and Aaron Jones. And I was like, what? So I think that was the most surprising thing to me. I also called Bo Richter making the practice squad, which he did. So big congratulations to Bo Richter. He has definitely put in the work. Hopefully he'll get some time off the practice squad this year. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Just really happy to see Nudie make the roster, undrafted guy. He said he's really relied on Josh Metellus to kind of get him through this time. But I just think he has such a fun story. And also he went to Arkansas, and I'm from Arkansas, so that's a fun little thing. I don't think he spent all his years at Arkansas though, but he came to the league from the University of Arkansas. But yeah, those are my takes, my big takeaways from this. I think the Jaron Hall thing wasn't terribly surprising either. What did that happen the past few days? So, yeah, the running backs, that was the main thing that I was like, oh, okay.
Nudie. His name is Dwight McGlovern. Nudie, and he likes interceptions. So we call him Nudie Picks. So whenever he gets an interception, we will have the Nudie Pick segment. And Dwight McGlovern will be the star. Good one. Yeah, see? He likes interceptions.
Is it though? Is it though?
And there's another Nudie pick.
Hey, it's going to be a test for all the play-by-play announcers to see who. PA. I want to hear Al Michaels with a Nudie pick reference.
And that's a Nudie pick 6. Hey, it's coming. Hopefully in bunches. I would love to see, because talking about rookies, I remember Tony Dungy telling me the story about my dad that as a rookie he had 4 interceptions, and then Tony Dungy the next year said he has to top him because he's not going to let a rookie outdo him. And I think Tony got him by 1 interception the next year. My dad had 2. I think Tony had 3. And they won the Super Bowl. And so like that, he said the thing about rookies, and this is what Tony Dungy told me, and this happens to a lot of corners if you think about it. Darrelle Revis, Champ Bailey, Charles Woodson, a lot of NFL quarterbacks don't think that rookies really are good enough, so they throw their way versus the veteran. And so if you're good enough, you could get the pick. So when Nudie's in the game, a lot of guys, I mean, because honestly, like quarterbacks do that. They look at the matchups and be like, oh yeah, I'm going after this guy right here. So hey, could be a lot of Nudie picks this year if he's there, if he's in it. Look at Cam Bynum. They went after Cam Bynum versus going after Harrison Smith. Cam Bynum became the star. So it always happens. Like they're willing to go after the guy they think might be the weak link. So if Nudie's in there in dime or nickel, hey, they might grab him. But I think special teams too. He's gonna play a big role in special teams. I've heard that was one of the main reasons why they wanted to keep him over some of the other guys. Unfortunately, our guy Duke Shelley got cut. But Sam, 53-man roster. We've been talking about this for a long time. It's like Christmas. It's finally here. We still have a lot of cuts coming, or not a lot. Sorry, a couple cuts coming. I've heard when you look at the roster, there's some pieces that they're waiting to see who's going to clear waivers. But what are your thoughts on 53?
Yeah, well, first let's focus on the defensive tackle position and just marvel at the rookies.
Yeah,
Levi Drake Rodriguez, Jalen Redmond, and Taki Taimani are your primary backups.
They got younger.
They got younger, almost wholesale turnover there. I mean, they got Jerry Tillery in there. That's a new body. They keep Bullard and Phillips, but they're trying to change who they have in the pipeline at defensive tackle, because for years and years they've been a little bit punchless, not a lot of pass rush, not a lot of pop on that interior. And I think they're trying to change that. And they had some really unheralded dudes. Levi Drake Rodriguez is a 7th round pick. Redmond and Taimani are undrafted, and they made this team. So props to them. And they balled out. Like, they had really good preseason. So I can't wait to see what they can do in the regular season. And then I was a little bit bummed that Lewis Cine didn't get one more chance. I thought that they would favor him over Jay Ward They did not. And now Lewis Cine is a Buffalo Bill after we thought he was going to be a New York Jet for a minute, and then he wasn't. But he stayed in the AFC East. But he's gone. Otherwise, I wasn't too aggrieved by anything I saw in this 53-man roster construction. I thought it was actually one of the weirder years where you were kind of like grasping at straws to get to 53 guys. There weren't a lot of dudes that were clamoring to make it on the list. I thought it was fairly cut and dried at a lot of positions, but they're still tweaking. They made a couple practice squad tweaks yesterday. They made the Jaron Hall move, brought in Brett Rippon. So we'll see if they have one more move in them. Maybe it's a running back like Julia got into, or maybe they really trust Myles Gaskin to be a practice squad elevation there in week 1.
Yeah, and when you look at the whole practice squad thing too, that's going to be Bo Richter. You look at some of the guys they're bringing back. It's going to be some key guys, trying to make this 53 and get elevated. I think you're right. I think the backup situation and the growth for the future, like getting a bunch of older guys and hoping they can pan out versus getting some of these younger guys, growing them, and then 2 years from now you're like, oh crap. So Reggie, I'm throwing a different question to you because we all talked about the 53. We all kind of in our takes. Do you think Kwesi, because Sam brought up a great point, undrafted free agents, Ivan Pace Jr. before, now these new guys this year, does that maybe relieve us? Like, does this help Kwesi out a little bit with his Lewis Cine pick that he's also found some diamonds in the rough and Nudie?
Yeah, I mean, it helps, but it's tough. And I'm appreciative of Kwesi and his transparency, kind of being humbled up at the podium yesterday, talking about how, hey man, I tried to do it all in one punch. He kind of compared it to the 33 point deficit that they had when they came back to beat Indianapolis, and he felt like maybe he kind of bit off a little bit too much trying to go too far. And you can always look back at that first draft of his and think on a lot of things. Jamison Williams was there. I was banging the table for him. They did get Jordan Addison a year later, so you might think, that's a wash. But maybe Kyle Hamilton was also available at that time, and he traded back for Lewis Cine, who didn't work out. And Andrew Booth ended up getting traded, didn't work out. And there's a lot of key people in that draft that didn't work out. Now, there are some diamonds. We continue to see what Ed Ingram is going to turn into. It's been a little up and down with him. Jalen Naylor, Ty Chandler. There are some guys that worked out. But yeah, it is cool to see that he has a track record of these undrafted free agents, because they have kind of helped fill out the team a little bit and help provide depth, and also been key contributors. And when you talk about a guy like Ivan Pace, and so, you can't hit on all the drafts, I suppose, but it is tough when you're in a division with teams like Detroit and Green Bay, who draft so well. The Bears have drafted pretty well the last few years, and you don't hit on the draft, but you're still competitive in the division. Win the division a few years ago, could have challenged a bit for the division last year if things didn't go so crazy after Cousins goes down. So there are some good things to draw from this, but it is tough when you move on from so many premium picks on cut down day. You like it. You like them being humble, talking about Kwesi, but I think that is one of the takeaways, that it's all about producing. The rent is due every day, and being an NFL GM is not one of those jobs where you get the benefit of having some on-the-job training. So as great as I appreciate the transparency from Kwesi, I know that he probably feels a little bit of the fire, like, man, I gotta keep doing better and get these things right. Because his job depends on that.
Yeah, and his job depends on the outcome of the next 2 seasons, I'd say, because JJ McCarthy, or maybe 3. Maybe Sam Darnold has a great year. They bring him back for a 1-year deal again and say, hey, we would love to have you for 1 more year. You know what you're going to get being here with us. And we want to give JJ McCarthy a full year, actually healthy as a backup quarterback and not just coming off like literally doing nothing, sitting on his butt for the last 6 months. So with the 53, I say my quick take is I was very surprised. The same kind of Reggie and Sam both hit on it, and Julia brought it up with the number of younger guys they kept defensively. But again, we've always talked about this youthful movement. We were more so talking about Blake Cashman. We were talking about Dallas Turner. We were talking about Grenard, Van Ginkel. Like they all have like a youthful feel. Like even Brian Asamoah, Ivan Pace Jr. is one of the biggest kids out there. So their leaders are a lot of young guys that are trying to have fun. And I think Byron Murphy even kind of feels a little younger. You do go get the older Stephon Gilmore. But the other guys, Taki Tamani, Jalen Redmond, Levi Drake Rodriguez, which I said that right away. When they mic'd him up week 1, I'm like, they're keeping him. Like, you don't mic a guy at week 1 and cut him. And everybody's like, no, you can still cut him. Okay. All right. You would be a human horrible being. Like, as they say on Twitter, that's nasty work if they were to cut him after micing him up and give him all this publicity, all these interviews. Sorry. We'll see you when you play for the Jets. But yeah, so that kind of was writing on the wall for him, which kind of felt great. Probably like, man, I'm a rookie and I get to a 7th rounder and I get to get mic'd up for a game. So he showed enough in training camp that they're like, oh, this kid's good. Now, can it transfer over? High motor guy. You look at all these young guys, a lot of high motor guys as well. When you talk about the older guys, I was sick of seeing hands on the hips, hands on the back issues. I'm tired after 3 plays, coach, get me out. These young guys are going to be hungry to get after the quarterback every play because they know how easy it is to just not be on the team. Where older guys sometimes maybe feel a little bit entitled. So I kind of like where Brian Flores went with it. I will say the D-line coach last year that was upset with keeping 3 D linemen is probably looking like, really? Now you want to load up on D linemen? When I asked you to, you didn't think we needed it. Now we need it. But hey, it is what it is. Hindsight is 2020. But before we get out of here, we got to talk about the Twins really quick. We'll do that after a word from SiriusXM. Just know SiriusXM is a proud partner of Locked On Sports Minnesota. I also just did the app. I logged in myself on SXM. All you have to do is search your name if you already have it in your car, and it's going to link your car to your phone. That's dope. And so you can get all your car stuff and you can switch over right to your phone and stay on the go when you get out the car and never lose a minute. So I don't have to wait for Dan Patrick in the car. I can get him on my phone. But make sure you download the SXM app and it'll be right there on the go. And you can get Locked On Sports Minnesota. Search it. You can get our shows right there. Here we think on the postcast about the Minnesota Vikings and the Gophers. Hopefully we get double wins next weekend. Gophers win, Vikings win. Should be a great weekend for everybody. But we'll be back after a short pause. About 30 seconds to a minute left in show, so take it away, Sam with the Twins.
Yeah. Let me just tell you quickly about the Twins. They've lost 8 of 10, and the bullpen is cataclysmic. Credit to Aaron Gleeman, who really digested this and the Athletic article. But the Twins are 0 for 5 this year in trying to acquire relief pitching. They have an injured Justin Topa. Steven Oker did not work out as a lefty. He's been designated for assignment. Jay Jackson was released. Josh Staumont was released. And Trevor Richards, who they traded for, has also been designated for assignment. So nobody they tried has worked out in the bullpen. The bullpen has collapsed. It's cost them several games this past week, and the defense has been abysmal as well. They got to get healthy. I mean, the long and the short of it, you got to get Correa, Buxton, and Lee back, and then hopefully gear up again here in the month of September.
Well, we'll gear up in the month of September. We'll see. Like you said, Sam, they lost 8 of the last 10. It's not good. It's not good at all. But there's a lot of baseball left to go. Playoffs are coming. Hopefully they can get in it and not be on the outside looking in. But I'm Ron Johnson. We're on the inside, and we're still looking in. And we're looking forward to, again, I'm excited about the Vikings-Giants. I want to see this Vikings defense. I know Julia's going to be excited. I know Reggie's excited. We're going to have a great Friday coming up that week of the Giants game and the Gophers game. But I'm Ron Johnson, Sam Maxim, Julia Daniels, and Reggie Wilson joining you from Locked On Sports Minnesota. Have a great weekend, people, and enjoy your Labor Day.